Welcome to Puck Academy, a show about how hockey players grow on and off the ice. I'm Jason Jacobs, the host, and each week I talk with players, coaches, and experts shaping the future of player development. Today's guests are Erik Kallio and Angelo Serse from Prost Skating. Prost instructors believe that making players faster, quicker, more efficient, and explosive skaters will make them better hockey players. In this episode, we talk about both Erik and Angelo's backgrounds in the sport, growing up as players, their transition to coaching and coaching around skating specifically, and skating in general, when it's too young to start, how to think about it, what it takes to get better, how much of it is on ice versus off ice versus mental versus conditioning, and anything else that you might want to know. It's a great discussion, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, Angelo Serse and Erik Kallio, welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming. So, funny story for listeners. I was watching a camp that my son was skating at this summer in Foxborough, and there was a guy next to me putting his skates on, and we started chatting, and that was Erik. And I told him about what I'm up to, and he agreed to come on the show. And of course, Angelo, you and Erik work together, so you're joining. And the show's sorting through player development, and there's a lot of nuances and knots, as you guys know. And I haven't had anyone on that's skating specific yet, and obviously skating's an important component of hockey. And I also have a lot of questions about it as a dad, so I'm really grateful that you two are making the time to come on and talk about what you do, since teaching hockey players skating is what you guys do, probably as good or better than anybody. So yeah, thanks again for making the time, and looking forward to learning more about Prost.
Absolutely.
Well, what's Prost, for starters?
We're the skating school for hockey players, and we have a really specific niche where we're focused on skating development. So we're not a general skills. We're not a one-stop shop. We're going to teach you how to skate, stick handle, shoot. That's not what we do. We focus on making players faster, more powerful, more efficient skaters on the ice. But then also taking those mechanics and being able to apply it to a game, because that's a step that, coming up, that we noticed a lot of players are missing. They can become great skaters and then don't know how to apply it, or can't apply it, don't understand how to put it in a game.
I was going to ask how Prost came to be, but even before that, it'd be great to hear from each of you just your path into the game, because it looks like both of you played the game at a high level before focusing on coaching and focusing on skating. So path to the game, and then we can talk about path to focusing on skating. But first things first.
I mean, for me, it was kind of my uncle who got us into hockey. My father is from Italy, didn't speak English until second grade. So my uncle got me in. We always had a deal. If I made it to the NHL as a player, I think, because we talked about this, I would owe him a car. Unfortunately, I never bought him a car, but that's okay. I made it as a coach.
Does making it to the NHL as a coach, do you still own the car?
Well,
that's the
question.
No,
I don't. I think in the contract it was as a player. So I started in Long Beach, in Long Island, and from there just kept playing the game. And my father and I, we actually talked about this the other day. I don't think I really played the game for any other reason than for the love of it. Until probably I reached 16, 17 years old, that's when I had coaches start recruiting me, right, for juniors and whatnot. And even I remember we got to juniors and my dad was like, no, he's going to college. And then all the parents were like, no, he's going to play juniors. So eventually get to college. This is what they do in hockey. We didn't know that. And so I ended up playing junior hockey, played college at Stony Brook, which went there for the education and some fun. The hockey it was good, but definitely it was better for the education. But then even after Stony Brook, I never thought I would play professionally, but I ended up getting an invite to a camp and played 2 years in the minors, I guess, and kicked around. That was kind of my story. But it was a great learning experience. It was great with all the friends you meet and make, and still am close with them forever. Erik will joke around. We'll go anywhere in the world. And you're like, geez, of course you know someone here. We're like, yeah, we played together here or here. And it's like, yeah, you meet great friends for a lifetime. So it's a great sport. I was probably better at baseball than hockey, but there was nothing to compare to how fun hockey is.
Yeah, we got to do what you love.
Yeah, exactly.
And what about you, Erik? What was your path into the game? I saw you're a NESCAC guy like me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, mine's, again, like Angelo, it's not like I have deep roots in the, from years of family playing. My parents are both from the West Coast. Neither of them know how to skate at all. And we moved out to the Boston area when I was about 4. And they were like, I guess you live in Boston, you might as well learn how to skate. So I learned how to skate on unsharpened figure skates in Taunton, Massachusetts for a year. And then coaches were like, he does a pretty good job. Has he ever thought about hockey? And my parents had no idea about hockey. But they put me in Learn to Play and then mites. And I was a kid that the coach had to come up and say, you're supposed to untape their stick before you just put a fresh layer of tape on. I mean, I had like 20 rolls of tape on my stick blade.
Did you at least take the skate guards off before you stepped on the ice?
I mean, I don't know if it mattered if I didn't have sharpened skates, but, probably, I mean, hopefully they probably didn't even know about skate guards, to be honest with you.
No.
So I just, it's kind of one of those things, played town hockey, and then people were like, oh, you should go play whatever, the next level. My parents were like, all right, where do we go try out? They brought me to a tryout and just kind of, playing AAA in the Boston area, playing through high school. And then after high school, hadn't really thought about college hockey until my senior year. And then some junior teams came and said, would you be interested in coming and trying out? So did that and ended up playing juniors, getting recruited by, a bunch of schools, but decided Hamilton College and the NESCAC was a great fit for me after a year of juniors. There's so many things that go on in that time frame of should you play another year and all that. And I had a great opportunity, loved Hamilton. So I went and played 4 years at Hamilton College, and then had the opportunity to, had some tryout offers, had some agents talk to me, but decided, I kind of wanted to get into coaching as opposed to putzing around in the minors for a year or two. I mean, at that point, you kind of see the writing on the wall, and, the NHL was not the writing on the wall for me, but I really enjoyed, during my college times, working at hockey camps, helping players get better, younger players get better, and really loved that. And had the opportunity to go work for some camps and organizations when I graduated college, and just never got a quote unquote big boy job, I guess. Just went right from college into coaching players and have made it a career now.
It'd be interesting to hear from each of you just the path to focusing on skating, and also just how you came together and how Prost Drive got off the ground. And then, of course, we can get into all the good stuff, which is, skating and why it matters and what to work on it. But I figured a little history would be helpful for listeners, too, just for context.
I know for me, it was when I was at the festival for the U.S. team. I had a coach tell me, like, you're really good, but you need to work on your skating. Like, that's what's really holding you back. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? And he was like, go on a slide board. And so I went on a slide board. I got stronger. But whatever you do on the ice, it often translates off the ice. So if you skate very upright and you go do sled pushes, which are great, you're going to do a sled push very upright. So you have to work on the technique of it. So I think for me, just not knowing much about hockey or what makes you better, I never had that growing up in this area. New Jersey at the time, it was not a hotbed. We had some unbelievable kids that came out of this area that were my birth year or even younger, and some that were older who kind of paved the way. But we didn't have the information that we do now. And so for me, it is so rewarding for me to teach a player and have him get that contract in the NHL or D1 commit. That's more rewarding for me to see than me going to play in NHL. It's just so cool to see. Eric and I have worked with guys since they were 5, 6 years old, and now some of them are at the D1 level, at the college level, playing in the minors or in the NHL. And every time they talk to a reporter, it's like it's your speed. That's why you're so effective. And it's just so rewarding to see that. And so that's what kind of that got me involved. Like, okay, I want to provide you what I did not have. So, and it's great to see.
Yeah, I would say, for me, growing up, I did a lot of, various different kind of skating camps and, clinics and coaches that taught skating. And I didn't have the best hands. I did not have the best shots. Those were not, Angelo will tell you now, like, I don't even know. Hands are the first to go, but they're bad now. But, I made it because of, number one, probably my speed, and then obviously knowledge of the game, but it wasn't stick handling and shooting. So I just know how important it was for me improving my skating and just all the experience I had in terms of working with coaches, being taught by coaches, after my playing days, working with different coaches and learning from them. And how important it is and how that can change a player's game, because you can have an amazing shot, which a lot of players do, which is a great skill. But if you're not a great skater, it's hard to really utilize that. So for me, just, the best way that helped myself was my skating ability. So being able to pass that on to other players and coach them. And Angelo and I got connected just kind of working at, clinics after we were finished playing, and we met each other and just, became great friends and started traveling around working for different hockey companies. And, that's how we met each other. But then back in, 2021 decided, why don't we start Pro Stride skating and do this together. And, we knew some other coaches, some of our other lead instructors who are amazing skating coaches in their own right, and, form this team that make up Pro Stride skating. And we feel we have the best group of, coaches, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I think just to piggyback off of that too, like Eric and I've been in the hockey world for 36 years now, and all the amount of coaches that we've had come through, they've taught us good things and bad things. And we've taken all of that, and we knew that there was just a program that was kind of missing that could evolve and translate into the game of hockey. Eric and we're not speed skaters, we're not figure skaters, we're hockey players at the end of the day. And we know that you need to show players how to translate that into a game. You could be the fastest guy on the ice, but if you're not smart and don't know how to apply that in that game situation, you probably are not in position. So it's like, okay, great, you're running around like your head's chopped off, and you're fastest one out there, but then why is the puck always behind you? Why are you always out of the zone? You're cheating the game a little bit. So we pretty much took everything that we have had and we continue to do so. Eric and I are now just thankfully surrounded by some of the greatest coaches in hockey, and we continue to evolve and develop and learn and become even better coaches every single day.
Skating it's a confusing one as a parent, because it's almost like a black art. It's like so-and-so needs to work on their skating. Like, what should they do? Like, well, they should get stronger, or
go on a slide board.
Do edge work. Yeah. Or
just
go
edges.
on a slide board.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, why don't they get lessons or clinics or whatever? And it's like, well, what do you look for? And it's like, honestly, I think, and you guys know better than me, but I bet that most parents just look at like, well, what kids do they work with, or what pros do they work with, or whatever. And it's all just about the people, because they have no idea how to assess like what's good and what's bad, and how to know and how to tell, or what they should be working on, or, what's a gimmick, what's detrimental. So, what advice do you have for players and parents that want to skate better on where to start, how to think about it, when, Yeah, any and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. But I would say, number one, and I get, people that call me and be like, we saw your whatever post or brochure or whatever it might be. Are you guys good at what you do? And it's like, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask that, because I'm going to give you of course, we think that our coaches, what we do, we're the best. And, we're always trying to be better. But go talk to people that have worked with us. I think that is a testament to what we do, and I would say that with pretty much any program. Right? They're like, what do you think about this? I'm like, I've never done program X. I've never taken it as a player. So don't, I've seen from it. Don't ask me, go ask someone ask around. Did anyone ever done program X before? And, see what people think. Was there value in it? Were they teaching your players? Were they connecting with your players? So I think that what you say is, how do you know what's good and what's bad? That is truly the hardest part, especially with social media nowadays. I mean, you go on social media, there is some great information out there. There is some awful information out there that's just plain wrong. And how do you decipher between the good and the bad if you're not a true, hockey expert? You played the game, like, that's not right. Like that, how do parents know? How do players know? Because we have players and parents come up to us all the time, be like, hey, we saw this. Isn't this amazing? I'm like, no. And then you explain to them what is incorrect and what would be correct. Like, that makes so much sense. I'm like, but how do you decipher that if you're just someone sitting at home? So truly the hardest part is deciphering what is of value for players and what's good and is going to teach players great skills and what isn't. In my opinion, it's talking to people, talking to parents and friends that have done certain programs, and try and get feedback that way.
I would kindly disagree with that. Just
Nice.
Because they're
Little drama. I like it.
Yeah, there are just some parents who always think they know best. And they're just so hooked on this one person. And this is the person we need to go to. This is going to fix everything. No. Like, a lot of times parents, and no offense to them, parents with a lot of money feel like they could just buy the skill. And it's just like, all right, we're just going to do everything. And we're going to go to this and we're going to go to this. And then it's almost too much. You got to find what works for you. And why you're asking this question and why it's such a great question is because there is no answer. It's hard. I'm in the soccer world right now with my 8-year-old daughter, and we're arguing about what she should be doing soccer wise. And my wife's like, you're holding her back. And I'm like, no, you're going to burn her out. And it's just like, it's such a hard.
If your daughter's anything like mine, your daughter's going to win the argument no matter what it's about.
Yes, exactly. And so I just often, I don't think there's an answer, right? And at the end of the day, I think it's okay, because parents have to stop having their kids play a sport to make it professional. I think Erik hit the nail on the head. I did as well. I think the bigger question we have to ask people is, why are we having our kids play sports? It's so they get off the iPad. It's so they get out of the house and they go play and they have fun and they enjoy it. I don't care how bad my son is at hockey. After the skate, hey buddy, did you have a good time? Yeah. I had 3 goals. No, you didn't, but yes, you did. Yeah.
I've never tried this comeback on anybody, but I'm going to try it right now for the first time ever, the inaugural time that I'm going to throw it out, which is, because everyone says, like, do it for fun, do it for fun, do it for fun. Why do we send our kids to school?
I'll say this too. And I get, like, we do it for fun. I think, and this is what, in terms too, looking back on it, what did I get out of it? Because we're like a hockey school, you know what I mean? Like, what we work on isn't the most fun thing, because the first thing that kids, a lot of times, the first time they come out and work with us for is, when are we going to scrimmage? It's like, that's a good joke. Your parents didn't pay us to watch, to come out and have you put you through a scrimmage. So it's like, well, they're coming to us. Why do we go to school? And I think part of it, and what it taught for me, is life, how to work hard, coming out there. What do you enjoy? All right. You enjoy playing hockey. All right. Well, that's a skill that you have to work on, and it's not just skating, but all the different skills. The game is the fun part. That's the payoff. That's the prize at the end of the road, whatever it is. But to become a great hockey player, you have to put in a lot of hard work, a lot of hours. And that teaches you life skills later on. What do you want to be? You want to be a banker? You don't just show up and be a great banker. You got to put in hours. I mean, I'm no banker, but you got to put in hours and hours and hours and long hours to master certain things and to make so it's the same thing with skating. It's teaching these players, something that they love, which is hockey, and how to dedicate themselves to become great at it, and the better they dedicate themselves to becoming great at individual skills, all the players we work with, they become better skaters. They have more fun playing. Why do you have more fun playing when you're a better skater? Because you get the puck more. You have it more. You have more chances to score. You're on the ice more. So, you're working on a skill that's going to help you have more fun, but it takes those long hours. So I think, I think I lost my way on the question there.
The reason why we go to school is structure. You have structure. It could be a touchy subject. These academies are not for everyone, right? They're not. I would not have done well. If you're telling me I go sit in a hockey rink and I go on my computer and do online schooling and I'm not being looked at, I would have failed. I would have had to go back to 5th grade probably. That just wouldn't have worked for me. I needed the structure. It's even why I went to a prep school, not just for the structure. The hockey was a little better, but it was more about discipline as well. And then even if you kind of take that classroom atmosphere and you apply it to the game of hockey, right? Okay, so the game, the fun part is the game, right? But we're going to have classes in between. You're going to go to your strength coach. You're going to go to your skills coach. You're going to go to your skating coach so that when you become older, those become better, right? And then that's why you got to go to school to learn. I don't know if, for me, the online schooling, it works for people. It does. Just for me, it would not have. That's for sure.
Bringing it back around to the skating, I mean, it strikes me that you can watch someone skate and then you can pick out, oh, we can tune this, we can tune that, change this, change that. But there's also just fundamental things that you could be doing to kind of get out ahead of it. For example, you could, and I don't even know what they are, but I'll just give you some hypotheticals. Like it might be flexibility, it might be speed or agility, or building up certain muscles, or getting used to certain motions, hand-eye coordination, nutrition, sleep. Like there's things you could do that can kind of set the table for you to be better out of the gates before you get into like the prescriptive tuning of fix this and fix that. So is it one size fits all in terms of no matter where you come in, like here's the general process and here's what we like to work on, or is it more like meet people where they are and personalize? And I get that some of that might also be logistical constraint of like, well, if we're doing a group of 15, right, then it can't be 100% personalized, even if it should be. But I'm just curious how you guys think about it.
I would say there's never a one size fit all. I don't think for anything. But, and what you said too about, off ice and physical, I think the number one thing, and people say it all the time, and maybe it's cliche, but it's be an athlete, like you got to be an athlete, the mobility, insanely important to be a great skater, to be a great hockey player, knowledge of, just how to play a game, whatever, it all translates. So being an athlete helps you become a great skater, and that doesn't mean to be like, well, until you're a great athlete, there's no point in focusing on mechanics of skating. That's also part of becoming a great athlete and being able to learn and adapt and make your body do different things that aren't always the normal walking, running motion or things like that. It's becoming an athlete, and that's like the number one thing for players. And players that are great athletes tend to become great players because they have that athletic ability, but you can't just do one thing to become a great athlete.
Yeah. And I think you do often, people get confused with like, the Patty Kanes and some of the few players who have only played hockey and never gotten off the ice. It's definitely important to, I mean, there's so many studies, right, that show you should be taking 2 to 3 months off for your sport. Go play another sport. And yes, go to the gym, go work out, and have fun with that at the younger age. Right? It's like when I was done playing, I didn't want to see the inside of a gym for a couple of years. So it's
still working on getting back inside that gym myself.
Oh, well, I can't find it.
Yeah.
When it comes to the actual mechanics of skating, is it more of a long tail where different people have different problems and no two skaters are the same, or is it more like these 2 or 3 things are like the highest leverage things, and if 80%, for 80% of the skaters, if they just did these 2 or 3 things better, their skating would get twice as good.
So I think it definitely depends on what age you're talking about, right? If it's a might, squirt, peewee, focus on the fundamentals, where it's your forward stride, your crossover, your forward backward C cut, your 4 pushes in hockey, and your edge work, right? When it starts getting to the high school level, when they start growing, that start changing a little bit as well. But you still want to stay with the fundamentals, but now you're going to start implementing it a little bit more into the game situations. And maybe you're concerned about the angling, the surfing, the tight turns. At the pro level, college level, that's when it's harder during the season to break down the fundamental pushes. But during the season, what we usually do is we'll focus on the game situations. And then during the summer, that's when we can start implementing the fundamental pushes. So it depends on what stage in your career or what age you are, what you want to focus on. But no matter what we get to, every time Erik or I work with an NHL guy, they always say, where were you 15 years ago? Where were you when I was 10 years old? Like, I've just had one guy recently tell me, he goes, I've been skating wrong my entire career. And he goes, I think I've been doing pretty well. I go, yeah, you've had a very good career. But it's not that he was skating wrong. It's that now he's skating a little bit better with more confidence. And it was just a quick little tweak. And unfortunately, there are people who will try to take the biomechanics of how the body should work and work to the best of its ability. And they'll just be like, no, this is the new way. That's the old way. And just try and reinvent the wheel. Where a lot of these, I don't call them hockey coaches. I call them influencers on Instagram, are doing these crazy things that you don't see guys here do.
Like you were asking, is there certain players have to skate? There's a certain foundation, fundamental skill set that all players need to have. And, players that have more hip mobility, for example, than other players may be able to do something a little bit better than some players ever. But that's not going to mean like, all right, well, this player, you should push straight back, whereas you're a different type of skater, you should push out at an angle. When you're skating, everyone's going to have to push out at an angle. You can't say, well, this player pushes straight back. There are certain principles that are going to apply to everybody, and then, within that, as you get older, and like, as Angel says, you get to, these older guys, these college and pro guys, you work within certain things. So like, I don't feel complete, there's, one pro I was working with, I don't feel completely comfortable doing exactly what you're saying. I'm like, okay, what do you feel comfortable with? And then we talked about it. And it was such a minor difference between what I wanted him to do and what he felt comfortable with. I'm like, okay, as long as you do it this way, I'm good with that, So, and it was just a very minor difference, nothing major where, so I think there are principles that are going to apply to everybody, that to be a great skater, you have to be able to do certain fundamental things correctly.
Yeah, Erik and I say, think of it like a toolbox, right? Towards the end as you get older, we're just keep filling up that toolbox with more and more tools. You have to realize, though, what tool you're going to use that will apply best in that game situation. Gimmicky or not, I don't think it is, but we are starting to call it hockey skating IQ, right? Where, okay, am I in the right spot? Am I reading the play right? That's hockey IQ. Okay, but what about skating IQ? Okay, so I get the puck, I go to take off when my feet are wide, I'm not accelerating. Okay, that probably wasn't the great time to have your feet that wide and not go fast. Maybe you had to take off and start going a lot faster. It was Sheldon Keefe. He was just had his feet really wide. And so there are times where Erik and I have talked about, like, as stubborn maybe as we are, and it's not even what we think, it's what we know and what we have learned talking to strength coaches and talking to biomechanic professors. There are certain things you can't change our mind. Like, gravity works in a certain way. It has to be this way. You're not going to change our mind. Could you? You could try. Yeah, if you provide new scientific reasons to show that, like, this is the way it has to be because of this, okay. But you can't just tell me, well, you got to do this because that's what I think. Like, okay, well, that's wrong. But then you can go to different types of players. I think the two easiest players to compare were Panarin and Chris Kreider, right? So you're watching Panarin and Chris Kreider. Both are very good hockey players. Both are complete different players. They're complete different skaters. Panarin's very upright. Chris Kreider's straight, full speed the whole time. But why can't we get a little Panarin in Kreider where maybe he slows down in certain times of the game? How about we give a little bit of Kreider to Panarin where, all right, now he's going to create a little more time and space in the playoffs. Not giving the Rangers anything to work on, though. But those are the different types of players and skaters. Yeah, everyone's not going to skate the same, but there are certain things where you have to. Like, that's how to get the most out of it. So, like, a forward stride, like Sheldon Keefe was just doing, can you skate wide? Absolutely. Scotty Gomez did it his entire career. But his crossovers were so freaking good that once he got into the neutral zone, he didn't have to take another stride. He could just stay wide and he could shuffle side to side. But that was his type of style. Now, could he have lengthened his stride like a Scott Niedermayer? Yeah. Could it have completely changed his game for Dad? Maybe, because that's what he was used to. Where you have some guys like Erik Karlsson. We were lucky enough, Erik and I were in San Jose, and we're watching Erik Karlsson 6 rows back. We were given free tickets. We can't afford that. So we were given tickets, and we're watching him. And I remember watching Erik Karlsson skate around the net, pick up the puck, and keep his feet wide. And I'm like, I thought Erik Karlsson was a pretty good skater, and we were watching him. And then all of a sudden, the third time he picked up the puck from behind the net, he passed it to a winger who was at the far blue, and Erik Karlsson took off, and he pulled his feet in, locked his leg perfectly, and he just went on a breakaway and scored. And I was like, he just really changed his stride mid-game, mid-shift. Like, that's unheard of. Right. So you get different players, different types. So that, like Erik said, there's not one size fit all. That's for sure.
So if you wanted to assess my skating or my kid's skating or whatever, I mean, is it just like take a few laps and I'll watch, or do you really need to see him in a game environment to know where he's at and what he needs to work on?
I mean, some of the things too, like, when we run our clinics, we get a variety of ages, and younger players, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, younger players, they're going to do what you say 90% plus of the time, just because you're the adult and that's what they've always done. And, they do what you ask and they do it the best, and they're really fun to work with. But we know when we see older players come out, we see a teenager, you see a 16, 17-year-old come on the ice. That's the age where players got to really want to work on their skating. And if they don't want to work on it at that age, they're not going to make a change. So if they think they know better and they can't learn, that you can't make them faster, they're not, it doesn't matter who the coach is. They could be the best coach that's ever stepped on the face of this earth. They're not going to learn from that coach. So we know that when we see those players specifically, we kind of almost like in warm-ups, we haven't even brought it in, introduced ourselves. Players are just skating around. We've done a quick stretch, watched them go take a couple laps at speed around the ice. We kind of make a beeline for them. Like, hey man, you look like a great skater, but I just, I noticed watching you, like you do X, Y, and Z, and we can fix those areas and make you faster. And when you go to those players, especially those slightly older players that are kind of unsure if they want to be there and want to learn from you, like, wow, that coach came right over to me. They noticed a few things right off the bat and just said, hey, we can make these faster. And that goes a long way with players. Be like, he watched me and already picked out 3 things within 20 seconds of watching you go around. And we didn't see everything that you do because we didn't see you go backwards. We didn't see you transition. We just looked at your crossovers, your forward stride, and could pick out 2, 3, 4 things right there. Hey, I can make you faster. We can make these changes, but you got to want to make these changes with us. And we can teach you to do it, but you got to put the work in to get there. And usually right there, that connection that's made within the first 2 minutes of them being with us, most of the time they're locked in. They're like, all right, I'm going to listen to this guy. I don't know who he is yet, but it sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Do you guys feel equipped with focusing on mechanics alone to make material changes, or are there other areas outside of your jurisdiction, if you will, that that you really rely on to do their part? For example, if players, would a player's progress 2x or 3x, which you could do with the mechanics alone if they worked on certain things in the gym? And if so, is there any coordination, or should there be any coordination across the different service providers?
Oh, that 100%. I mean, there's so many times where here in Newark, it's the strength coach, the sports science team, the skills coach, and me all talking together. We're always talking. Even if it's a youth player, we just had a player. His dad may have just walked by, where his body angle was not great when he was skating. And it goes back to the sled push where I go upstairs, I watch him work out for a few minutes. He's doing sled pushes to become quicker, and his upper body is straight up again. And I was like, that's exactly how you skate on the ice. And I go, it's exactly what you're doing here. And then he fixes it in the gym, and then it starts to correlate to on the ice. They 100% go hand in hand. There's so many times where I'm working with a guy. Even this morning, the player's upper body keeps falling over, just on simple inside-outside edges. And I'm like, okay, just simple knee, shoulder has to line up, be in front of your toe. And then 10 minutes later, he's working with the skills coach. He's doing a few warm-up shots, and guess what starts to happen? His chest starts to come down again. And then the skills coach goes to him and is like, hey, if your chest goes down, your shot becomes inconsistent. And I go, did we just talk about that? You see how it goes hand in hand. It has to come together because it's all the same.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, it's one thing that Angelo and I say, we can make someone a pretty skater, but just because you're a pretty technically correct skater, it's not necessarily going to make you fast if you don't have a big engine. And then some of our good friends are strength coaches, the head strength coach there for the Devils now, Joe Lawrence, I went to high school with, I was best friends with in high school. He can put in a big engine into a player, in the gym. But if you take that big engine, you put it out on the ice and their mechanics are just terrible, it doesn't matter how strong they are, they're not going to be a great skater. So some players, we have different tools that we use. We have a 1080 sprint machine that we use that measures players' skating, their power, their speed, tracks left and right leg. We get a ton of information. And some players, it shows like, listen, your mechanics are great, but you're not producing the power. You need to get into the gym, or some players are like, you have a ton of power, but you're not that fast. This is a mechanics issue. This is us, and some players it's like, get in the gym, so different, so it's the cohesion between the on ice, the off ice, the different skills coaches. It's not only go to Only work on off ice and you'll be fast. That's,
And I mean, given that, if you guys could probably fill, 40 hours in a week just working on skating and helping drive meaningful improvement, but so could the shooting coach, and so could the strength coach, and so could the sports psychologist, and everyone wants more, right? And so both from a budget and just a time and kind of overdoing it standpoint, how should people think about skating? Is it like short bursts when you can squeeze it in? Is it a little bit consistently ongoing? Is it some of both? Like what would be optimal in a world where, put aside money and time and competing interests? Like how much is too much and what's the right rhythm?
I mean, we're in the business, the hockey business, and it is a business. At the end of the day, we want to make money. If we wanted to become rich, I say all the time, I would have went to medical school, right? I know I'm not going to become a millionaire doing this, coaching hockey. It is a passion, and we do fine, right? But we do it to better these players. So we have had some players sign up for too many camps. If you're signing up for 4 or 5 during this year for camps, that's too many. Like 2 or 3 is probably your good sweet spot, where you do a spring one, a summer one, and then a winter one. That's a sweet spot, right? And it becomes a good habit over time. And then as you get older, like we have 2 players, his father says it all the time, my boys need to come see you to get a reset, right? And so we're watching him, whether he's playing at Wisconsin or the other ones playing for Carolina. We see little things that, okay, they could still get even faster, even better. And it just becomes a reset. When they come back, it's just a reminder. I have some guys here, I have a daily reminder to swing their arms. Just swing your arm. That's it. Right? Forecheck, back check, just use that arm swing. Because because they got the skill coach talking to them. They have their head coach talking to them, their D coach, their specific power play coach. A lot of times it's so much information. Just a simple reminder at times, especially for the youth player. That's why even we always say, what's the difference between a private lesson and a camp? There's pros and cons to both. I work with a junior team as well, and it's once a week. We do one theme every single day, but we may go 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month, without hitting a fundamental push. And so then we come back to it and they're like, oh, wow, we completely forgot about that. And that's normal. But then in a clinic, that's where you can continue to work on everything for 3 to 4 days in a row, and we don't have to review as much, and you get more out of it. So that's why the clinics are just so much better at times, and how you structure it. There are times where, oh wow, like Erik and I were talking about the other day, we've been working with a guy for weeks, and we haven't even got to backwards, and we kind of forgot to work on that. So it's a little unstructured at times, but there is definitely too little, where you just come for one clinic of ours. I don't care how much better we can be at it. If you just come one time, thanks for the donation, right? Because that's not going to do anything. It could give you some information, but there's no way a player, a child is going to retain that information and take it for the rest of their life.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what Angelo said. I think it's the long-term game. It's the sweet spot is 2 to 3 in a year. And you can make a lot of improvements, but you got to be dedicated to putting the time in year after year. That's where a lot of people fall off, is they might do 2 or 3 for, 2-3 years, and their kids become great skaters. And then we hear from them, then they take a break. And then 3 years later, we are like, his skating's falling apart. Well, no kidding, because you haven't worked, you haven't put any of that focused time in over the course of 3 years, and the players that really become great skaters, that are lasting skaters, dedicate that time, put that time in year after year. And we now get players that, they're 15, 16 years old. They're amazing skaters, but, they've been working on it since they were 7. And then we'll get a player that comes to us and be like, hey, you made Johnny skate amazing. He said the reason he's so good is because he works with you guys. Can you make my player that good of a skater? Be like, I mean, we could start the work, but they've been working on it now for 7 years, multiple times a year. So we can't replace that time, but we can get started now. So, when's the best time to start working on your skating? Now, but don't overdo it. Don't, like Angelo was saying, I talked one parent out of that wanted to register for 8 of our programs this summer. And I said, as a business, that would be amazing. But as a coach, as a development coach, that's awful for development because one, will he get better? Yeah, but he could get burnt out of working on his skating and then never wanted to work on it again for another year, ever. And then that one summer, he might have made a lot of improvements, but we know it's year after year of working on it. So putting in some focus time 2 to 3 times a year, make a massive difference when you compound that over years.
I think too, just about the money thing. So we know we have competition who charges way more than us. We know we don't charge as much as them. Could we make more money? Yes. Do we think it's getting out of control? Yes. But then we also, at the end of the day, it is a business where I feel like I get a call from Erik every day. He's just fighting with rinks. And he's just fighting with them over price. And they're like, well, we're going to go from $550 to $650 this year per hour. And we're getting 20 hours from them. Like, that's a insane difference over 1 year. And we're trying to keep it as little as possible for the consumer. And it's becoming very hard, unfortunately. But then in the other way, some people look at it, we've had some people in my area, and I've talked to my sister about this, who's in the hockey world, and she's like, you don't charge enough, people don't think you're good. And I'm like, you can't win. So it is a lot, and it's an expensive sport. I'm looking at it from my 6-year-old, and I'm like, oh, he just started liking hockey, and I'm like, there goes my bank account. You kind of just know getting into it, it's expensive.
And I know we're running up on time, but I'm curious. Maybe last topic, but what role do you see technology playing now and in the future? And also, what role do you see remote or virtual playing, if any, now or in the future?
So, I mean, technology is great, and there's certain things that are amazing about technology in terms of we use video analysis and that all the time, and being able to do it really quickly, on the ice with a player, group of players, right? Pull out, a lot of times we'll pull out our phone, film them, and then we can watch it in our apps frame by frame. Be like, hey, see what you're doing. And because oftentimes what players feel might be different than what's actually happening. So having that visual of immediately being able to show them, see, you didn't lock your leg. You thought you did, but you didn't. That's really powerful. So we do a lot of video analysis for all players. We offer it at all our clinics because a lot of times players then see what they're doing and how they have to fix it. So that part of technology is unbelievable. I've done a couple kind of working with players virtually that live in different parts of the country. And it can work. I don't think a virtual lesson will ever work if they have no foundation with us, because I can't say, hey, you're doing this. I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And I need you to I need you to lock your leg. I need you to bring your feet back in a V. And they just can't understand what I'm talking about without me there demoing. So if they've never worked with us, being able to make those changes virtually is just never going to happen. But if you could complement it with, you've worked with us and we can, I've had players, they've worn AirPods, put their phone on the boards, and I've sat there and watched them, talked to them in the ear the whole time, but they knew exactly what I was saying. I want you to make this correction. You're not doing this. Now go do this drill. Let me see it and make those corrections. So there's a role, but it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing for some of these players.
I think with technology, it's starting to become pretty cool. And I know talking with guys from the NHL about some of the technology that's coming, and Erik talked about it before, like we're using our 1080 sprint We've become very close with those guys and kind of consulted with them as well. When you tell a player that they're not as fast because their feet are wide, right? Like players are like, okay, but I still feel like I'm going fast. Okay, well, now we know if you pull your feet in, you're going to be up to 20% faster. So now we have concrete numbers. So then we can have a player go on the 1080. We get their numbers. Okay, it took you 3 seconds to go 15 meters. Okay, now next summer, obviously you're going to get a little stronger, a little taller, but it doesn't always mean you're going to go faster on the ice because it's slippery. But now we're seeing that 15 meters, now it's taking 2.5 seconds. Now your power has gone up, your stride length has gone up, and we can see so many more things. And it's cool to see concrete numbers. Do we need that technology? No, but it just gets the players to buy in more. So like even when Erik was talking about, do we need to have a player in a game skate? No. Take a lap, take one lap down and then cross over on the corners. I can bring you right in. All right, you do this, this, and this on your stride, this, and this on your crossovers incorrectly. Now we could be like, all right, you're losing X amount of speed. And we know that because of the data that we have found and the studies we have done using the 1080 sprint. So the technology part of it's so cool and fascinating. It's not needed, but it helps.
Do you think you could train the machines to do stride analysis the way that the machines are starting to get trained to analyze golf swings?
There may be AI coming. Yeah, but I think there's also too a little bit of AI and everywhere it's going. I think there's always going to be a personal thing that AI can never do, because the way you communicate it to someone, the relationship you have with them, the trust that these players build up in you, that you're not leading them in the wrong direction too, is something that I don't know if AI can ever do. I mean, I know there's times too, and Angelo and I have joked about it, a player I might have worked with for years. And then all of a sudden, me and Angelo on the ice together at a clinic, he's at the player's at the clinic. And that player comes over to me and go, hey, Angelo just told me that I have to do this on my stride. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I've told you that 100 times, but Angelo said it a slightly different way with a little joke in there differently than me. And it connected with the player. We're saying the same exact thing, trying to communicate, but it resonated, however he said it. So maybe he was ready to absorb it at the time. Or it's just, so I don't think AI, as great as it is, it can break things down, but, is AI going to be able to teach someone? That I don't know, but it can definitely analyze for sure.
And the one question that Erik and I have always talked about, can AI analyze your stride? The answer is yes, it can. There may be a meeting next week about it, right? As a parent, you're paying us to analyze his skating. Do you want to hear us or do you want to hear a robot?
Yeah, but something for you guys to think about is these tools aren't just to circumvent the humans. They can also be used so that the human feels more empowered to serve more people without compromising quality, or take things that were previously kind of the eye test and actually put some rigor around it. But it would require you trusting the machines so that they're not compromising your standards as well. But yeah, in some ways you could almost be the composer, right? Versus just the musician.
I agree with that. Like having AI confirm what you're doing and saying and stuff like that. And it's great. I mean, and that's why I think it's an addition. I don't think it's ever going to replace, but I think
I don't either. Yeah. I don't either, to be clear.
But it's a great addition that can only make things better, because like I said, players got to trust. So when they make changes and they see the change is affecting their speed, their power output, that just reinforces that what you're teaching them is working. And that, that in and of itself builds trust too. So.
And I know Angelo is about to turn into a pumpkin. He's got to get on the ice. So is there anything I didn't ask that you wish I did, or any parting words for listeners?
I mean, I think my only parting words would be, there's no magic pill out there to become a great skater. It would be great if there was, but the players that become great skaters and great hockey players, it's because they've dedicated themselves over time. Anyone, looking for the shortcut, I wish there was a shortcut. There just, there is no shortcut to becoming great at any skill. So putting that time in over years, that's what it takes. So it's that, but that's also the hardest part to be like, I know I'm playing the long game versus I just want it fixed now. But that's what it takes. And the players that do that, they have a lot of success no matter what level they're at, whether they make the NHL or not. That they might just turn into a great high school hockey player, which in the end is awesome. Be a great high school hockey player. Putting in the time to something like your skating is going to help you be that great high school hockey player and have a lot of fun.
Angelo, anything to add?
Yeah, I think this could be almost kind of a Family Guy thing, like grinds my gears. We've always thought it was just because we're doing skating and it's the most boring thing to work on. But a lot of times players don't want to put in the work to do it. They just want to play games. Like Erik said before, when are we going to scrimmage? We've found the same thing with our skills coach. Our skills coach here, he has taught me more about my own shooting, puck placement, hand placement. And I retired 15 years ago. Like I don't even play really men's league, right? So it's when you get an opportunity to work with a specific coach, a skills coach or a skating coach, take advantage of that. Players often just goof around, mess around, and it's so infuriating whether he knows what he's doing or not. Like, maybe you take one thing from that person. If you don't believe in what that person's teaching you, okay, maybe you'll learn one thing, but you have to work hard at it. Like, you're not just going to go play games and become a really good hockey player, because during the season, coaches don't have time to work on these specific needs that a player has. That's why you go to that special class, right? You get taken out of your school for your skills coach. You get taken out of school for your skating coach. That's how you become better in those games. And it makes it so much more fun. It's what I did not have as a kid. I was never taught any of this. And it's just so frustrating now that my shot is okay now compared to terrible. So, and it's all just and it's not even him teaching me. It was me just being on the ice, listening to him. So work hard so it becomes more fun.
Well, thanks, guys. How do people learn more about ProStride?
You can check us out on the web at, prostride.com. We're at rinks, all over the country, a lot in the Northeast, but we're in California, Florida, Virginia. So check us out, or come to your local rink, say hello when you see us in the rink, and, feel free to, yeah, exactly. I'm just sitting down and putting my skates on, ready to go work with a pro guy and, just started talking, but yeah, prostride.com, our full schedule comes online end of December, early January for 2026, but we've got some of our upcoming holiday clinics as well. So hopefully we get to see some new players we haven't got to work with, that just learned about us.
And of course on any social media, because if we don't have followers, right, that means we don't know what we're doing. So we always like to put up good content up there, good stuff, bad stuff, to try to educate parents and players as best as we can.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys, and see you in the rink soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Puck Academy. If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast and share it with someone serious about their game. See you next week.